Ahead.
Great. Good afternoon. Welcome to the East Bay Regional Park District Board Operations Committee. It's July 16th, 2020, and we are starting almost on time, 12:33. And so pursuant to Governor Newsom's executive order number N-29-20 and the Alameda County Health Officer's current shelter in place order, effective June 5th, 2020, the East Bay Regional Park District headquarters will not be open to the public, and the Board Operations Committee and staff will be participating in meetings via phone/video conferencing. Okay. Madam Secretary, would you like to let people know how they can submit public comments?
Sure. So at this time, the information can be found on the agenda on the website. In addition to that, public comments, if you wish to speak, you can join via the Zoom link that is provided in the agenda. You will be admitted into the chat room where we will request what item you are referring to, or if it's just a public comment in general. Those not wishing to make a comment, please join us via the YouTube link that is also provided in the agenda that's located on the website.
Excellent. Okay. Without further ado, Madam Secretary, will you please do a roll call?
Sure. Director Wieskamp?
Here.
Director Rosario?
Here.
Director Waspy?
Here.
AGM O'Connor?
I see him.
Thank you.
Okay. So item number 2, review Montclair swim team agreement. Roberts Regional Recreation Area.
Oh, there she is.
There she is.
Administrative Assistant Renee Patterson will be presenting today. Renee, it's all yours.
Thank you, Jim O'Connor and board committee members. Let me bring up my PowerPoint. So my name is Renee Patterson. I'm an administrative analyst in business services, and my supervisor, Tiffany Margalisi, the business services manager, is also here today, as well as the unit manager, Dania Stoneham. I believe Kim Watson from Montclair Swim Team has also joined the meeting if you have questions at the end of my presentation for the swim team. So I really need to make it clear that this special use agreement is contingent upon the pool being available, because obviously it's closed right now due to COVID, and it may also be closed sometime in the next year or two for construction. So an overview of what we're going to go over today is a brief history of the team, the public benefit of this special use, safety and rules for the team, the special use itself, and the revenue we will receive, and we'll end that all with the staff recommendation. So the team was founded in 1960. They've been based in Oakland the entire time. They're a California 501c3 nonprofit. It's a competitive team for 12 and under swimmers, and they're part of a USA Swimming sanctioned program. The team has been using Roberts Pool since 2006, after leaving the Montclair Swim Club in Oakland. They have had over 3,000 swimmers on the team over the years, and they learn everything from stroke basics to sportsmanship and competitiveness. The team participates in about 20 to 25 meets per year, and they host one of the meets once a year in spring. Many of the swimmers have moved on to swim at D1 colleges and at Olympic trials.
Renee, can I just interrupt you for a minute? I wasn't sure if you were going to screen share a presentation with us.
I'm sorry.
Were you going to screen share a presentation with us?
Oh, I did share it, didn't I?
No, we don't see it here.
Oh, okay. Let me start over. Sorry about that. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Hmm.
We see you.
I've clicked the screen share several times. I'm sorry.
And then you have to select the presentation in the window that pops up.
You
Oh,
can see
there it
it?
goes.
There we go.
Okay.
There it is.
How's
There
that?
we go. Thank you.
Oops, sorry. Okay. So I don't want to go over this all again, but this is the introductory slide for the Montclair Swim Team Special Use Agreement. And again, the team is aware of the pool closures for COVID and construction, and their use of the pool is dependent upon these things, the pool being open for the entire term of their agreement. And then the overview. Brief history, and then now we're at public benefit. So swimming is a sport that lasts a lifetime. The swim team strives to start the pursuit of fitness through swimming with a fun, rewarding program. And they try to ensure that the swimmers reap the rewards of swimming well past participation with the team. So it essentially fosters a lifelong activity. They also have outreach. They do a yearly swim-a-thon. It takes place the Friday after Thanksgiving to raise money for Oakland's Learn to Swim program. So the safety and rules, only the members and the coaches are permitted in the pool area. The parents stay outside in the parking lot. And the coaches provide suitable supervision of the swim team while the practice takes place. And the coaches have current certifications in first aid and CPR. Also, the gate access is closed to the pool area and it's locked at all times. The parents sign a waiver and release form for the swim team as well as the district. And they meet annually and quarterly if needed with the park district staff to review emergency procedures. They follow all the USA Swimming Safe Sport guidelines. So the special use itself, the program is shut down for December. They pretty much swim the rest of the year. They have 2 weeks off in the spring. And the swimming at Roberts Pool stops when the public access is opened in June, July, and August. They have about 50 youth swimmers. The age range is from 7 to 12. They swim Monday through Friday. Each group swims about 1 to 1.5 hours. They have 3 separate groups: guppies, minnows, and sharks. Guppies, the youngest, sharks are the more advanced swimmers, and they swim for the longest time period. So the revenue is $50 per hour. That comes out to about $24,000 per year if they swim all the time that the pool is available. They have access to the entire Roberts Pool complex during their practices. So the pool's a 25-yard, fully accessible heated swimming pool with depths of 3 feet to 8.5 feet. And they also get to use the bathhouse, which has changing rooms and bathrooms and vending machines so that they can get snacks while they're waiting. They can also use the lawn area. So this is a nonprofit organization. It's completely run by volunteers. Their expenses include Pacific swimming fees, the coaching expense, pool time of Roberts Pool, and other pools that they may use, and other administrative expenses for overhead and swim equipment. So the staff recommends that the Board Operations Committee approve and recommend to the full board a 5-year special use agreement with Montclair's swim team for use of the Roberts Pool for swim training with annual revenue of approximately $24,000 and for when the pool is open only. So if you have any questions.
Okay, directors. Director Wieskamp, questions?
I think it looks like a terrific program, and let's hope we have the pool open for them.
Director Waspy.
Yeah, it does look like a terrific program. And I guess one question I would have was, are there lifeguards on staff that while you're swimming there?
No, sir. The coaching staff provides what would be equal to lifeguard services. They don't hire any extra lifeguards, and our lifeguards are not there either.
Yeah, and this is Kim Watson. Just to update that, our coach is certified with CPR and all of the USA Swimming requirements for any coach to be as a stand-in for a lifeguard as well. All those safety precautions are taken.
Okay, I don't want to be critical. Can I ask a follow-up? You said they're trained as coaches and certified as coaches, and they know CPR. Are they trained? Do they have senior life-saving, WSI, things like that? I mean, as specifically trained lifeguards?
Yes, it is a requirement for any USA Swimming coach to go through, I believe, basic life support training.
Okay, I hope we could clarify that. Basic life support is first aid. Lifeguard certification is a specific lifeguard certification. It's just a point I'd like to check. I think liability-wise, I know other agencies I've worked for and had the same type of arrangement would require their lifeguards to be on staff. I would never suggest that. That's an extra cost, but I'd be interested in the liability, and I'd like to have it definitely the American Red Cross Senior Life Saving Certificate, which is a standard of the industry, if I'm not mistaken, to be part of that qualification of the instructors.
All right, I can certainly, I'm pretty sure that he does have that certification, but we can certainly provide that documentation.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, Director Waspy, we'll work with Kim and we'll get back to you on that point.
All right, thank you.
Great. And then I have a question. You mentioned that they do a fundraiser for Learn to Swim program for the city of Oakland. Does the club offer scholarships for kids from Oakland that people of color or don't have the means to afford a regular club?
Currently, scholarships are not offered only because we are running pretty slim, and any donations that are made, it goes pretty much to the Learn to Swim program for the city of Oakland for other swimmers that are just unable to have the means or be able to join any swim team outside of ours.
Okay.
So currently right now we don't have a scholarship program.
Okay. And then My last question is the Montclair Swim Club the only club that uses the Roberts Pool?
Good afternoon, Director Waspy. This is Danny Stoneham, Recreation Areas Unit Manager, and currently, yes, they are the only club utilizing the facility.
Okay, great. Well, I think it's a great program. Hopefully it's in some future date we can open, and hopefully we can also have a brand new facility for them as well. So with that, I'll accept the motion.
So move.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. And all those in favor say aye.
aye.
Yeah, and another aye. So it's unanimous. So thank you very much. I think next time I'll ask the Madam Secretary to do a roll call. I forgot.
It's not so
Okay.
hard. We're just three of us.
Quite all right.
Thank you all so
All right.
much.
Denise is ready.
Thank you
when
so
are.
much. Yes.
Good wish.
If it's okay, that is my cue, right, to drop off.
Yes. Thank you very much, Kim.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Wanted to make sure. You guys have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
You too. And so we are on item number 3, MAST update, the FAMIS work order system.
All right.
Hello, directors. How are you?
Good morning. Or
Good
afternoon, I should say.
afternoon. Yeah,
Afternoon, I got this just for a second, Meadow.
sure thing.
So good afternoon, Chair Rosario and members of the committee. It's Kelly Barrington. I'm the Chief of Maintenance and Skilled Trades. I just wanted to introduce this item. As you know, the maintenance department is becoming more and more data-driven, as is the rest of the Park District, in terms of budget forecasting, trying to figure out where best to utilize staff, where best to put our money in terms of major maintenance programs, regular maintenance programs, preventative maintenance programs, all the things that we do on a normal basis. Years ago, the district started using a work order system called Cartograph that was simply intended to replace the old paper mess that I know that you and Director Waspy are very familiar with, especially Director Waspy going into Renee's office, all the blue forms hanging on the wall. Went away from that, went into Cartograph. That became obsolete for us, was no longer meeting our needs. And we were graciously asked for and were given generously by the board $250,000 to replace that system. I have Meadow Darcy here to give you a PowerPoint presentation on its features, how it works, and maybe even a quick demonstration if time allows. And Ruby Tumber, who was also instrumental in making this happen. And this project doesn't get off the ground without these two ladies. Just heavy lifts for the department and the district at large. There were many others involved, from IS, operations, management services, finance, and basically my own management and supervisory staff as well. So without any more of this, Darcy, she's about to give you a nice presentation on this.
Hello, directors. It seems like Chief Barrington already went through my entire PowerPoint, so I'm pretty much done. But I will go ahead and just for, kicks and giggles, we'll go ahead and start that. Let me go ahead and share my screen here 1 second. Let's see, share screen. Let me make sure I can do that. All right. Is everybody seeing my screen?
Yes.
Very good. Okay. Well, good afternoon, directors Rosario, Waspy, and Wieskamp. My name is Meadow Darcy, and I am the administrative analyst in the Maintenance and Skilled Trades Department. And I am going to be presenting to you today the selection and implementation of our new maintenance work order system. So a little bit of background on which Kelly already went over and stole my thunder, but a little bit of background. We're going to talk about that today, a little bit about the goals that we wanted in a new CMMS system, which is our content maintenance management system. The RFP process and selection, the integration of that software with other systems that we have. And then at the end, we're going to do a little demonstration of Famous so that you can see a little more about it. Okay, so as Chief Barrington was saying, originally we had a paper ticket system, which was just a carbon-based paper system that you filled out, tore off, and send off into the abyss, and hopefully somebody would come out and fix things at your work site. And that was just used as a paper system that was entered into an Access database. In 2001, Cartograph was brought on board, but again, that was really more of a data storage system. It really wasn't anything that could be used for analytics. And so because of the interface and just really the system became obsolete at one point, it was determined that a new system would be required. And in 2017, through the budget process, we requested $250,000 for a CMMS update. It was placed into a capital project, and our RFP was posted in spring of 2018. So a couple of the things about Cartograph, this was the, you can see the home screen there for our Cartograph's navigator. Really the interface was not user-friendly. The data was probably the biggest issue. We were not able to utilize the data to run any type of analytics, to do any type of preventative maintenance prediction, any kind of forecasting of finances that were needed or staffing. And there really wasn't any way to analyze the work that we were doing and how we could improve that. So the system, again, as I said, was really just a data storage system and not something we could utilize the data to benefit our department. So some of the goals that we were looking for in our system was we wanted analytics and data. We wanted interactive mapping. We wanted accessibility with mobile devices, as that's kind of the direction we're going at this point. We also wanted to be able to customize the system to our system, since we have unique needs as a park district, and making sure that it is user-friendly for all of our technicians as well as our administrative staff. So the process selection team was quite large. We worked with operations, finance and management services, and ASD in order to put this together. Obviously, as you can imagine, this is not just a content management system for maintenance data, but how that goes through our system, how it interacts with some of our capital planning software, VFA, which is what we have. All of those had to be looked through and made sure that the systems could talk to each other, that the data that we had could be migrated easily, et cetera. So it really took quite a team effort to get this up and running. So what we tried to do is our process was outline the needs that we had and create mock reports. We looked at the workflow of Cartograph, and we talked to people that, what did you need out of a system? What are the pitfalls of Cartograph? What more could you get out of that system? We talked to different vendors. We looked at other agencies' CMMSs during the RFP process. And then we interviewed all of the RFP applicants, and we did reference checks and secondary interviews, and we settled on the top 2. You can see here, this was a little bit of our decision-making process here. So you can see that Famous really checked all of our boxes. So that was what was most important. It really gave us all the information that we needed. So we were able to get our analytics, our maps, ease of use, mobile accessibility, and of course, the price is always helpful. So this was our implementation timeline. The product initiation and data migration was started in spring of 2019. And then we did some training with the technicians from Accruent, which is the parent company of Famous, as well as VFA. It is the same parent company. And we did some technician training, which we call technicians our tradespersons. So anyone that is going to be utilizing the system on the back end to use those work requests to have work directed towards them are called technicians. So in late summer and early fall was really kind of a testing and beta testing period we had a couple of beta testers that we pulled from the district in different areas and had them test it out and tell us what was working and what wasn't working. And we wanted to do that before we went live so that we could address any issues before rolling it out to the entire district. Our go live date was October 2019. And as with everything else, we are continuing to train and continuing to test. Although we had a beta testing period, I call this our beta year, because this is sort of the year that everybody's using it. We want to see how it works and make sure this is something that will work for the district. So of course, with any new system, there will be challenges. One of the biggest challenges that we have found is really moving from a reactive maintenance department to a preventative maintenance department. It's actually something that we've not had to move into. We really have spent our time focusing on when things break, we fix them. But as moving to a preventative model not only saves money, but it saves time. It also allows us to plan ahead for capital funding. It allows us to also plan ahead for staffing and ensure our staffing are in the right places at the right time and the right amount of staffing in the right trade. So by really moving to that model, it definitely has some long-term benefits, but I think the challenge is not only moving the system from a reactive model to a preventative model, but it's also just changing the philosophy, changing the way you look at projects instead of looking at them from a reactive point of view. And then of course, system configuration and integration. As I said, Famous is under Accruent, which is the same company that created our VFA or capital planning software. So there's a lot of what they call fabric integration that they're working on in order to have VFA talk to Famous and make sure that every time we're doing maintenance or we're improving or we're replacing something on the maintenance side, that it's also talking to our capital improvement software to increase, say, the FCI of that property. So we want to, this was actually a really good choice to pick a vendor that also had the same, VFA software. So there's definitely integration. But of course, coming with that comes making sure that everything is named properly and asset numbers are numbered properly, et cetera. And then of course, staffing issues. Going from a reactive to a preventative maintenance model requires everyone to think differently and sort of shift the way they're thinking and shift the work that they're doing. So we always are going to have reactive maintenance, but it also means making sure we're also investing in the time and energy and personnel into the preventative model. So over here we have our reactive versus preventative maintenance. We had to really develop new workflows. So our maintenance contracts, for example, are no longer handled through emails or phone calls to get a contract number. Those are now sent all through Famous. And what I like to tell people is this becomes a more communication software. So instead of phone calls and emails that are deposited in different places, we now have one system where all of that information is deposited. Someone requests something, it's given to them, all that information lives in one system. Preventative maintenance is also another part of the system in which the system will allow us to put in schedules as well as put in not only the schedules of the maintenance that we need to provide, but we can also put in procedures that we need to do with that preventative maintenance. So if you have a generator that needs to be checked quarterly, you can put what gauges and what levels you need to check on that quarterly inspection. So as that pops up for the technician, they know exactly when they need to do it and exactly what they need to do. So there's consistency in that. You don't have that word of mouth of, I think we're supposed to check the, it's all written into the system. Capital projects, this also has a project module where project managers now can use this system to track their projects. They can track their budgets, they can do project planning, and even better, their supervisors can come into the project module and see exactly where they're at any time. Reactive maintenance, of course, like I said, we'll always have reactive maintenance, but now instead of filling out a form and sending it off somewhere, you now can check in on your reactive maintenance. I've requested this item to be fixed. I can go into the system and see that request and see that it's been assigned to someone, that they're coming out on Tuesday, that they came on Tuesday and they replaced the widget. And once they replaced the widget, they also, entered more data about the serial number of that item. So there's a lot more that we can do with this system. And then of course, staff training. It's always training. So system integration, as I said, our integration with our capital planning software, VFA, has been a challenge. We've been meeting with different departments to try to get, like I said, the systems to talk to each other, and also just really changing the way we think about planning, capital planning. Our reporting and data management is another part that we are working on. So we do have a really robust analytics portion of this software. We are still venturing into that. I think at this point, we're trying to get the data in there and then start running analytics, more detailed and in-depth analytics to see where that gets us. But at some point, we could have some predictive numbers from there. And of course, our mobile application, our technicians can now use Famous, actually our technicians and any user can use Famous on their mobile device. So technicians out in the field no longer have to have a phone call or have a complete list of what their to-dos were that day before they go out. They can pull that right up on their mobile device and know exactly what they're supposed to do, those procedures that are in there for any preventative maintenance. They can also update it on the fly. So they can update it in the field that they've already fixed the item, and the park supervisor can go back and see that item's fixed. So the staffing issues are staffing issues as far as, like I said, reallocating our staff to figure out where else they need to be. So again, we talked about designing and implementing new workflows. So really that's shifting people into a different way of thinking. Instead of making a phone call or sending an email, getting them to work into the system and make sure they're putting that data in the system. System administration, obviously, people will always have trouble with can't log in or can't figure out how to do this, and the training is always an issue. And then balancing workload with existing staff responsibilities. While this system is going to save us so much time in the long run, getting that system up and running, inputting all of those preventative maintenance schedules, all those preventative maintenance procedures, it takes some time. And so shifting around, trying to figure out how to balance that with current responsibilities. We're also working on developing procedures as well, different ways of requesting contracts, for example, or making work requests. So as I said before, really, the more we can really invest in this system, in a preventative maintenance system, we're going to prevent failures, and we're going to be able to predict funding needs. This can be an absolute game changer when it comes to budgeting. Being able to see that a system will fail in a certain period of time is a gold mine of information that can be used to do budget planning. And then as we do more preventative maintenance, of course, reactive maintenance will lessen. It will never go away, but we will have the ability to plan staff time a little bit better. We can also increase the service life of our assets. So by setting up a preventative maintenance schedule to make sure that that generator is checked quarterly, we are now increasing the service life of that generator, as opposed to someone went on vacation or that person no longer works here and forgot about the generator that needed to be checked next quarter. So it's all in the system. It pops up and it's assigned to someone. So looking ahead in sort of our next steps, we're going to continue to develop procedures and how to utilize the system. We also are trying to develop a preventative maintenance team. So really we're taking people from different departments and trades, putting them together and making sure that we are focused on preventative maintenance. That is an investment that we must make in this system. We cannot neglect that. And then also developing preventative maintenance plans and schedules, expanding project management. So again, with this system, we can have project management have a little bit better management system in which they can enter their data, they can budget, they can forecast, and they can attach work requests, et cetera. I'm going to show you that a little bit in the demonstration. And then of course, staff training and VFA integration plan. So all of those things are still out that we are working on. All right, and so as I promised, we will have a demonstration here of Famous. Let me go ahead and pull that up for you. No questions yet, we're gonna have to wait. Hold on one moment while I pull up Famous. Okay, look at me, I'm all ready to go. Okay, so this is what our Famous system looks like. Before I begin, I just want to make sure, are there any questions that you might have before I get nerded out into here? Are there any questions from the board about Famous or anything that I went over?
I see none.
See none, very good. Okay, all right, thank you. So this is what the Famous screen looks like as a user will log on. In this system, that one of the first things they're going to do is create a request over here. So selecting an assets, we call those assets, our parks are assets. And so there's a little bit of terminology that some of the training we've had to do is learning the terminology. But what can happen is a person can choose their park. So Anthony Chabot and is an example. So these are all of the assets that are listed within Anthony Chabot. I hope you all can see this. Is this big enough for you all to see? Okay. So there's the range, the residences, the restrooms, each one is listed in there. This was all logged by our VFA capital planning software. So some of these will look familiar if you're familiar with that system. So as we pick a device or pick an asset that we want, something that we need, worked on in that area, what's really great is we have all these drop-down menus. So we no longer have people scribbling in whatever they want to call it. They have to choose from something so that we can, appropriately categorize those requests. So let's say we have an electrical problem over there at the marksmanship range. You have a subcategory that you can pick here to get much more specific. And then of course you put your comments in here. And that's pretty much it. My requester information is already in here. I would go ahead and press submit and my work request would be in there. So I wanted to show you a sample of, I'm actually going to show you what's a project. So it's a little bit different, but a project that has several work orders attached to it. So this is our project module here. I'm going to pull up project number 11. This is our public safety restroom remodel. So as I click on this project, what we're going to be able to see here, a little bit up here, this is sort of our projects area here. It talks about the project name. We have the ability to create a budget. We have an ability to see how much of our budget we've used. And I will warn you that this particular work request is still in progress. This is part of our training and beta testing and beta year. So we are still sort of working out different procedures, how this is going to work. So all of these numbers in here, we're sort of testing and seeing like, okay, how is this adding up and what does this look like? So coming down here, we have several work requests that are attached to this project. So this one public safety remodel has several contracts. It also has our technicians working on this. And you can also see labor hours. You can also see how much was spent in other costs. So we can quickly see how much this job has cost so far. So when we click on this work order number, we get an even more detailed view here. So what's really great is here is the progress of your work order. So you can see that it was requested, it was assigned, it's in progress, etc. And all of these people are putting in their notes of what work they have done. So you're able, not only could the requester see that, the supervisor can see that, people from other parks can see that. They can all see where this project is at. And then we also have the ability to have attachments here. So this here is a picture that was attached to the work order. So we can add pictures in here. We can add contracts. We can add other documents to attach here. And so this work order has quite a bit of that attached in here. I'm also going to show you up here our labor costs. So our labor costs, obviously our straight time labor is covered within our salary schedules, but this allows us to eventually run reports and see exactly what our staff is doing and how many hours it took them. We also are having them track their travel time. So this is important information. We felt this was an important data point because this could tell us later how much time we're spending on traveling, and perhaps we need another substation or another location for one of our shops. So that gives us that information. But you can see all of these hours are then calculated. We have an hourly cost here that are updated annually, and we can estimate that cost. So all of these are data points that we are using in order to help us, figure out what it is that we need, to do in the future as far as budgeting and staff. Any questions so far? I just have one more that I'm going to show you. Okay. I've also got over here, I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom. This is sort of our contracts. This is how our maintenance contracts now are run. So again, now we have a requester that requests a contract number through this system. It gets requested and it's assigned to our maintenance department senior office specialist, who then processes the contract number, looks up the DIR, make sure all the licensure and insurance is correct, et cetera, and documents all that information here. That's what's really important, documenting all that information. So we don't have to figure out if Precious is in today. If we can, figure out if that was done, it's all documented within the system at a quick pull up. So looking at this contract here, you can see that we went from requested to planned to in progress to complete to closed. So start to finish, we're able to track exactly what happened with that contract. Okay, and then finally, our staff out in the field can also look up information for their park. So if I work at Anthony Chabot and I really want to know what's going on in Anthony Chabot, I can choose Anthony Chabot here, and there's all sorts of filters I can put. Who requested it? I can put what crew worked on it. I can put the status, whether it's open, closed, whether it's in requested or in progress, etc. I can set a date range for whatever I'd like. So I'm just going to do all of the work requests that we had for Anthony Chabot so far, 105. So 105 for Anthony Chabot. And you can see they are all listed here. We can drill down into each one of these and figure out what's going on. We can also run this. I call this my analytics Lite, is what I call it, because we're able to sort of pull this data out and put it on an Excel spreadsheet. And what's really great is now we have a spreadsheet of all of this information about Anthony Chabot work requests. So all of this information is here. We've got when it was completed, etc. We can also take that data and we can filter it. So we could say, you know, I want to know a little bit more about all of the systems in Anthony Chabot. So we can say, I want to know what's happening with the arena. So those are all of the ones focused on the arena. We can look at by park area, etc. All of this data can then be evaluated in whatever format you'd like. It can also be exported and uploaded into other systems. So it will come out in Excel or CBS or anything. You can put it in different formats. There is a absolutely much more detailed analytics system that we have, and I'm going to close this one here. So we do have our main analytics system that we can run our analytics. It's right up here with our with that little data here, but that is an entirely different presentation. So I will leave it at that. We will definitely be running some analytics the more data we get. As I said, this is sort of our beta year to make sure that we really have some good data. And by the time that we got everything up and running and have procedures in place and people know where they are, then that's something that we can move forward with. But as of now, we are able to pull up different data, and we can really look at how many work orders are being requested by Anthony Chabot, how many plumbers are being assigned to Anthony Chabot. All of that is really information that we can use. And with that, I am finished with my presentation, and so you can now ask any questions you have.
Wow. Questions, directors, Director Wieskamp.
Very impressive. God, what a huge effort, but certainly worthwhile.
Yes.
How many employees approximately are sort of directly involved?
Just about every single operations employee has a login. So we added all of the operations employees right off the bat. And then of course, other substations like public safety. We are happy to give anyone access that needs access, but of course we do limit it to, you know, people that are going to be fixing things in the building. You know, police officers, for example, wouldn't necessarily need to request those things. They would go through their staff. So yeah.
No.
Yes.
Could you stop screen sharing so we can see?
I can, absolutely. Yes.
And Director Rosario, if you don't mind, just a couple of comments.
Yes, please.
So, directors, this is the end. Well, it's not even the end yet, but this is the result, the product of a lot of work on a lot of people's part. And one of the visions we originally had is we're trying to create for our facilities the same level of work that we do on paving. Paving is a pretty well, it's been going on for years. Many agencies have developed, and over a year, the paving management system has really honed down to where it really does help the agency save money by prioritizing work. Whereas, you know, some pavement gets left to continue to degrade because it's at a certain point, but some pavement gets maintenance that extends the service life. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to create that same level of accuracy and efficiency for our facilities. And this is where we're going with this. And Meadow, that was a great presentation, a really great oversight, but we're really trying to move towards a more data-driven organization. And I want to emphasize a couple of things is that this is going to help. One of the things we struggle with right now in the agency is there's a lot of turnover. You know, think about it. Director Rosario, you left Redwood after being there for how many years? 20-something years?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Director Waspy, you left after years in the organization. We're having all this turnover and a lot of information was up in these park supervisors' minds, right? They knew where the valves were. They knew what was going on. They knew the history of that water system. Well, we're trying to actually take that out of people's heads and put it into a system so that as we go along, we don't lose that, because every time somebody retires, you know, it's like you get efficiency from somebody learning. Somebody retires, we have a drop in efficiency at that park site. And we want to kind of get that where it's not just based on people, it's in a system. Now, good leaders will always be good about managing the issues in their parks, but that's where we're trying to go, is where we have a much more efficiency, a lot like we do with our paving management. The other one that was really interesting that Meadows touched on was staffing. You know, right now we have a certain organizational structure we have for our maintenance function, and maybe that's not the best way to do it. Over time, as we gather data and we analyze work orders, especially by type of work order, maybe we need more electricians than we do plumbers. We don't know that at this point, but when we start to analyze this over time, it'll really look at our distribution and our deployment, and by the types of positions that we have, what's the most efficient based on the data we're gathering. And another final point I just want to make is that this is really exciting. It's really complex. Meadow's probably the right person to be in this. She's very detail oriented, but we're really trying to get this integration between the VFA system and the work order system, so that every time we do work out there, it has a benefit to a facility and it's reflected in that VFA system. Because over time, we're getting the FCI just like we have the PCI for pavement, and we want to make sure we get credit for all the work we're doing on a reactive side. Eventually, it'll have a benefit to the preventive side. So this is really exciting. It's something that was one of my goals when I first got to the agency, and I just can't believe we've gotten to this point. Meadow, that was really great to see. It's actually really where it's at. It's amazing, and we still have a long ways to go, but it really, in the long term, will save this agency a lot of money, because we're really going to put our limited resources in the right places. So thank you for let me make a couple of comments.
Great. Director Wieskamp, did you have any other questions?
No, I just say congratulations to all.
Director Waspy?
No, I think this is a great system. I think it'll be great. I guess my only question would be, is Famous ever, who else uses Famous?
City of San Francisco, I believe, San Francisco Parks, I believe, has just signed on to Famous. There were a couple of agencies that we had consulted prior to that as well. I think San Francisco joined after we joined. Ruby might have some more information on the other agencies that also use Famous with us.
I guess it's no big deal. My only question is, has anybody used it? Has it been proven out? Because I remember that Cartograph was going to be the next best
Right.
in the whole world. It was going to be it was going to be great. But
right.
I'm sure we'll keep improving, and I'm at some place we'll hit it, and I hope this is it.
So Ruby, you have a couple of places.
O'Connor, then Kelly Barrington, and then Ruby. AGM O'Connor.
Oh, sorry. One thing I want to say is when we went through the RFP process for the replacement system, we did look at the big stars. Main Star was like it's used by, I don't know, thousands of park systems throughout the United States. Cartograph is also a huge system used by many, like even large scale industrial facilities. What we did with Famous is we took a chance because it was integrated with our VFA system, and in the long term, we saw it as the benefit. Famous really was just starting out when we went through our RFP process. We took a chance, and it was much cheaper than the other systems we were looking at, much cheaper. It had the integration with VFA, and you know, it was one of those times when you take a chance, you take a risk. I think it's turned out really well because we've got the system matched to how we think and our terminology. And it also, that integration with VFA is amazing, because none of the other systems, they said, oh, we could probably do that, but they hadn't done it. And this was really great. And the mobile aspect of this system, I can't speak how important that's going to be in the future.
Great. Kelly. Kelly, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, but I think Ruby could answer the question better than I can. You were asking what other agencies we looked at. The City of Long Beach was one of them. University of the Pacific, we actually went out and visited them, had it in full use at the time. There were several others too. And just another point of information, you know, as we were working through our challenges with what Jim described as a fairly new product and getting everything adapted to our system, our way of thinking in our parks, you know, there were definitely challenges with that, but that also made it possible for the city of San Francisco to buy into this product on a much larger scale, because we kind of solved some of their problems up front for them, and they were wielding enough clout over VFA to motivate them to solve our problems for them. So it worked well for everyone.
And if I could just add to that, I think a lot of the vendors that we spoke to also had started with VFA. We started with VFA and we're moving to Famous. A lot of people that we had talked to had started with Famous and had not yet used VFA, but we're starting to move in that direction. So UOP was one of those that had started with Famous, which was great because they had been using it for the last 15 years. So to getting us, you know, up and running was great to be able to have them be sort of experts on that. And of course, we offered in return, when you need help with VFA, give us a call, because they were going to start embarking on VFA and getting that system. So a lot of people are starting to work with these two systems because they speak together. So it's very valuable.
Ruby, did you want to add anything else?
Yes, to address Director Waspie's original question, it was part of the RFP process to provide references, which we very thoroughly vetted, and we asked everyone about their experience with the system. As Kelly said, the University of the Pacific is a client of theirs, the City of Long Beach. There's a couple other municipalities in the state of California, as well as clients throughout the country. A lot of government agencies do use this program, and to add to what AGM O'Connor was talking about, you know, a park agency is sort of a new territory for this software, but with having us as like a feather in their cap, we're really able to shape the program and kind of direct the direction it wants to go. And it's largely shaped by our agency's needs. So that, in addition to the fact that it ties in so well with our capital planning software, VFA, has just been a great benefit to us.
Absolutely.
AGM O'Connor.
Yeah, I want to sing some praises for Ruby Tumber. You have no idea how difficult this was in the beginning. VFA had made some promises to us in the RFP selection process, and then attempted to sort of back out of that. Ruby held her ground, and we got an incredible deal for the Park District. You know, we were the pioneers. You know, sometimes those are the people with the arrows in their back. Ruby's got all the arrows, but in the long run, we got a really good deal, and we are a leader now. When I figure if the city of San Francisco is going to take this on, that's a pretty good sign that things are going well, and that's really has a lot to do with Ruby. And then Meadow came in to help with the technical aspects of it and the actual implementation. So this is a really incredible piece of work by Park District staff, and thank you to Ruby for hanging in there.
Absolutely.
Director Waspie, you have any more questions?
No, I would move approval of this and recommending it to the full board.
Great. Excellent. We have a motion and a second, and
Yes.
oh, we have a question.
It's just
Jim O'Connor?
It's an informational
It's
item.
Info
Oh,
only.
information. Oh, okay.
Yep.
Cool. I was going to say,
But
hey,
thank you for your vote of confidence.
we could do that.
Always.
Yeah.
I move that we double down on this and do it for everybody.
Right. Sounds great. Thank you very much.
But one last question from me was, are all of our park facilities, are their inventories completed, or is that still ongoing?
Ruby, do you want to answer that?
It is an ongoing process. When VFA first was signed on, it was, I think, 5 years ago. And that was actually a 5-year process to go out to all of our parks piece by piece, meet with the supervisors, understand what exactly we call these assets. Some people will call it bridge number 1, and then the other person will call it the old Tompkins Bridge or whatever. You know, not only just deciding what things are called and where they're at and locating them, but then building them into the system has been a long process. As you know, every year we create new projects, we add more assets to the district. So as time goes on, we are building the inventory as we go. We primarily focused on buildings, docks, bridges, piers as the primary components. Jeff Rasmussen is kind of the leader of that project, and he said, hey, if it's bolted down, if it has a cement pad, that's an asset. But as we move forward, we realize we don't just do work on those things. We do work in parking lots. We have drinking fountains. We have linear assets and irrigation systems. So our hope is that as time goes on, we will be building that as we go.
We just had a presentation on our small trails. And is that something that could be possibly incorporated into Famous?
We did actually, our primary trails and regional trails are named and codified in this system. So the Roads and Trails team, which does a lot of grading and work on our trails, are able to select that as an asset to do work on.
Absolutely.
So yes, it is built in there.
Great. Wow, this sounds like incredible. Yeah, thank you. It's quite an investment and quite an improvement over the blue cards and Cartograph.
Right. Oh, yes.
But, yeah, thank you for all the work. That's quite a commitment. But I think in the end, it'll make us a more efficient agency. And
Absolutely.
way to go. Way to go.
Thank you.
Okay, that was information only. Now we have something we get to vote on.
Wow.
Authorization for the second term of the Tilden Merry-Go-Round.
So I want to do a quick introduction here. Much like the theme of the last item, this was another area where we took a little chance. You know, I have often talked to the committee, the Board Operations Committee, about our concessionaires and how when you find a good concessionaire, it's like gold, somebody who's responsive and responsible both to our park patrons and also to park district staff and compliance with their contract. Well, this was a situation where, you know, it was one of those long-term 50-year contracts that we were turning over for concession operations. It was very controversial. One of our primary goals of turning over this concession operator was to get a better maintenance and safety record for this facility, this merry-go-round. We were really concerned about the long-term maintenance and viability of this, essentially what's an antique, a historic antique. And as we went along with this new concessionaire, they were doing a great job, and Tiffany will speak to that. But one of the things you have to do sometimes is we work really closely with our concessionaires to make sure they're successful. And this was a situation where staff made a recommendation, and I was a little hesitant, but we decided that the safety and maintenance of this facility was a priority, and this concessionaire was doing a great job there. So I'm going to leave with that, but this is a success story, and I'm really glad that Tiffany's bringing it forward. So I'll pass it off to Tiffany.
Great, thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. And I'm going to share my screen for the Tilden Merry-Go-Round concession approved 5-year term. Can everyone see that?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So as was introduced, I'm the business services manager for the Park District, and my role in this concession is relatively recent, as I've recently joined business services. And so as I lead into this item, I want to thank and acknowledge both administrative analysts in business services, Noah Dort and Renee Patterson, who have put a lot of care, attention, and thought into how to manage this concession for the best interest of the district. Also, we have Doreen Kwasnicki on the call, who is with Sycamore Concessions and is available to answer any questions. There it is, the merry-go-round. In terms of just additional opening notes, this is similar to the Montclair swim team item, where we're talking about a beloved attraction within our park. that is now closed due to COVID-19. So the MerryGoRound has been closed. We anticipate that this will be this type of activity, a MerryGoRound, it's a high touch facility, will be in the very later phases of reopening. So we've been staying in close touch with Sycamore, and they've been, I'll share some pictures. They've been really utilizing the time of the closure well to get some maintenance done. So that's a silver lining. So for today, I'm going to give a brief history to share some of the great history of the MerryGoRound, talk about the history of this agreement, and like AGM O'Connor said, talk about the successful recovery and the excellent safety and maintenance record from Sycamore. And then I'll conclude with our recommendation. So the MerryGoRound itself was built in 1911 by the Herschel Spillman Company. And it's one of the few antique carousels left in the United States. And before arriving in Tilden in 1948, the carousel had been in service at other locations. And they're listed here: San Bernardino, Ocean Beach, and Los Angeles. It is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. And if you ever have time, once it reopens, I'd encourage you to visit with Steve and Doreen Kwasnicki. And Steve himself is very well-versed in MerryGoRound history and the history of this carousel. In fact, did a ride for the Interpretive and Recreation Services unit meeting last year, and the naturalists all took a ride on the MerryGoRound, and they had extensive conversations about the history. So a lot of fun history there. So regarding the operator in this concession, in 2013, the Park District issued a request for proposal. And then in 2014, that's when the Park District approved the recommendation to select Sycamore Concessions, who's the current concessionaire. So this is to take us back in time to 2014. This is what was agreed on at the start of this concession agreement. There was an initial 5-year term. There was an option to extend for 5 years. It was structured that they would pay 7% of gross sales as a concession fee and 10% of gross sales into the concession maintenance fund. And so from 2014 and 2015, Sycamore was meeting all of the criteria contained in the district's RFP. Then we had some challenges, and in 2017, 2018, there started to be late payments. And so there were late charges regularly assessed with between December 2017 and April 2019. And so that's when staff came back to the Board Operations Committee in 2019 to implement a payment plan to pay back the missed payments as well as the late fees, and also reduce the concession maintenance fund payment. So again, this is a recap of then what was approved by Board Ops in 2019. And the main change there was reducing the concession maintenance fund fee from 10% to 5%, so that we could reduce that fee and support Sycamore with a more viable percentage. So as AGM O'Connor introduced, there was a certain amount of a risk to that in terms of setting up a payment plan and reducing the fee. The great news is that we had a very successful recovery. And since 2019 and the adjustment of the fee, all payments have been on time. And the outstanding balance of $32,000, $32,125 and 19 cents, even the 19 cents was paid back, and it was paid back early. And I want to thank Sycamore. The last payments were coming in during the shelter in place, as we were just learning how to telecommute and in that transition, and they were just absolutely insistent and attentionate to get those payments in on time. So we're really pleased to be able to report back that this plan did work. Also, in terms of other things to celebrate, Sycamore has a great safety and maintenance record. So in 2014, the concessionaire met with the OSHA inspector and helped develop the first maintenance manual for the merry-go-round. And then in 2015, they quickly complied with all the requirements to bring the merry-go-round up to OSHA standards. And then from 2015 to 2019, they've been meeting or exceeding all the criteria required by OSHA. And in 2019, the inspection from the OSHA inspector received a 100% score. It was the first time in the history of the merry-go-round, not even a single comment of any minor type. So I think it's just something really to be proud of. And it's a tremendous amount of work in terms of the maintenance, but also the documentation of the maintenance. And when I did a visit prior to one of these OSHA inspections, they have out on the counter there in the merry-go-round food area, binders and binders and binders, and you have to keep logs and document. And so I just want to really applaud both the effort on the actual machine, which is critical, and then also that effort to pass the inspection. You have to have the documentation to back it up. Here's some fun pictures in terms of maintenance. I visited twice since it's been closed due to COVID, and the team has been very busy rebuilding carriages. Here's an example. Steve Kwasniewski will take it apart. There's certain areas that have wood rot, replace beams, replace parts. All of the painting and materials are in accordance with the historic guidelines that we have for the merry-go-round. They're doing general maintenance and then also painting and varnishing. So there's a before and after picture, and it's kind of like a recipe or palette for each animal. And Steve puts like a tarp down around the base of each animal with its prescription or recipe. And it's like, you know, this much varnish, this color, and then he tallies as he goes around, you know, what he did on which animal and letting it dry in between. So the merry-go-round looks beautiful, and it will be in really good shape whenever we are able to reopen. So our recommendation then to the committee is that we go ahead and approve and recommend that the committee approve the second 5-year term. So this is the term that they would have had under the initial agreement. They've passed this probationary period. And so the term would go from February 1st, 2021 until January 31st, 2026. And then the fees would remain the same that they have been. With that, I will pause for questions and comments.
Great. Questions, Director Wieskamp.
You know, I think I've been around this a long time. I remember the discussion on the 50 years and how we were changing, how we were going to do things, and all for the better. It's admirable. It's a classic. I'm so glad we protect it. I'm not sure how we're going to reopen it, but I think you're going to be in good shape to do that. So congratulations on having somebody who's complied and even paid on time. Boy, in this world, that's amazing. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Director Waspy. Oh, you're muted. Dennis, you're muted.
He's hiding out.
Oh, still muted.
Zoom is lovely.
Good, I hope you can't. This is great, I'm all for it. I love the merry-go-round, participate there. So, but I'm a little interested in why somebody determined that it would be 7% concession fee and 10% concession maintenance fee. So you're suggesting now that we're gonna go to 5%, right?
The fees in this 5-year term will stay the same as they have been.
The same as they have been after we approved the reduction in 2019, right?
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. So I guess the question I would have is, what are the gross revenues? What were the gross revenues in 2019?
One moment, let me screen share again, and I believe I have that. One moment. Okay. Let's see, who can help me go to full screen mode without going back to the beginning of the presentation? I want to make this bigger.
You'd be able to play this from that slide.
Okay, I'm gonna just, everyone, I hope it doesn't make anyone dizzy. I'm gonna quickly go through to the end here. Apologize for this. Okay, so yeah, I do have this for reference, as just in case this question was asked. And actually, Renee, are you still on the line, and would you be willing to maybe speak a little bit to this?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, are you, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but are you prepared to speak a little bit to the revenues shown on this slide?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I think when this doesn't exactly address Director Waspie's question, but the gross receipts for 2019 were the highest over this period that we're showing on this page. It came to 473,627.80. And when I developed this spreadsheet, I think I was just trying to show the difference between what we would have gotten at the old rate and what we were getting at the new rate. So essentially what that 23,000 at the bottom just represents the money that we didn't get over the course of that one particular year, which wasn't even a change of a full year, but it was the difference between getting 10% and 5%. So.
Okay, I don't want to go too deep in it. I'm just wondering how, if you look at the gross receipts from 2014 to 2019, a 5-year period, it looks like they've doubled their revenues. Yet
yes.
We, as a district who generally charge 10%, and I think is the concession management fee or maintenance fee 10% throughout all of the concessions? And if so, when a company doubles their profits in 5 years, why did we give them a 50% break in their concession fee, would be my question.
Well, why don't we take your first question about what's the standard fee? So Noah, I see you want to address that one?
Yeah, I can address that. Real quick, I should just note, but the 2014 is a partial year. That's actually when they started. So they started in, I believe, the beginning of July, and 2014, actually, they had a soft opening, if I recall right, at the end of June. So 2014 isn't exactly a whole year, although it does, of course, include some of those very busy summer months. So not a full year in 2014. I'm sure Renee will confirm, but we don't, as far as I know, we don't have a standard concession maintenance fee amount. 10% was what was suggested here. And we did that because the MerryGoRound is a unique historic asset that we expected to have a fair amount of needs for. We've built up a good reserve in that CMF, so we still have a nice amount to work with. But that 17%, the total of the 10% CMF and the 7% concession fee, was proposed by Sycamore at the RFP, so that came from them. However, it's significantly higher than, I believe, any other combined concession fee that you find throughout the district. I believe otherwise the max was 12% or 13%. So this reduction actually brings them down in line with other concessions.
Oh, that explains everything. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, we wanted to reiterate that it is a range. It's concession by concession depending on what was proposed, and this reduction did kind of bring them more into the average range. whereas previously it was a bit high. Jim, anything to add to that?
No, I think that was great. No, I guess Dr. Waspy is that now they're aligned with most of our other concessionaires. And I think also over the time that that Sycamore's been managing this is now we're getting an idea. We also really asked to see their books. So we've been looking at the details of their expenditures as part of this process. And what we're trying to get a handle on is what is the true cost of maintaining such a unique amenity, right? A piece of machinery. And so that's really what comes into this also is, you know, a new concessionaire comes in, they pitch a certain amount of fees, but they may not really truly understand what it takes. And now we're getting a better idea of what it takes to maintain a historic machinery like this. So I think that's part of what we've learned over the years and where we're at today.
Great.
Great. Would this be in I don't know if questions or comments were done, but at some point maybe we can ask if Doreen would like to make any brief comment on behalf of Sycamore. Chair Rosario, do you want to say if this is the right time for that?
Yeah, I just have one question is I realized, I mean, just you describing the work on rehabbing the animals, it's very high maintenance. And I'm just concerned that is the CMF adequate enough to carry on those maintenance needs?
That's a great question, and I think there's different ways to look at that. I mean, we sometimes, when we look at some of the major renovation costs that we might look at down the line in terms of the building, we also sometimes will supplement from other funding, such as the 553 maintenance funding. So we definitely have a good healthy balance in CMF for the day-to-day maintenance, but we're also very mindful to, I was going to say hoard, but that's not the right word, but to set aside CMF funding and to keep a healthy balance also for the longer term maintenance needs, because there's things, there's things that we do every year, every 3 years, on different intervals. And then there's going to be the things that we do once every 15 or 20 years.
And then my last question is, the way the numbers are looking, we might not open for the rest of this year. How are they set to withstand that not having to open for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I'll speak a little bit to that, and then maybe Sycamore would like to comment. I mean, I'm aware that Sycamore did receive the PPP loan, which is the small business loan. So that's been incredibly helpful. The MerryGoRound also does include, the concession does include a residence. So that is also, a helpful support. And then we are working with them on the various tools that were approved by the board for concession relief. If there's other types of maintenance costs that aren't normally eligible for CMF, but we might reimburse to help them get through this time period. Yeah, it's gonna be a long one. Jim.
And another thing that I want to make sure I always emphasize with these types of concession facilities is that these are assets owned by the district. Yes. So much like we had to do at Redwood Canyon Golf Course, where we had to invest capital monies to renovate that facility, this is a district asset. So if the Kwasnicki's, if Sycamore Concessions wasn't maintaining this, we would be taking care of that. There would still be an expenditure to us. So there's that benefit of having them, they're taking care of that. If not, our own staff would have to be maintaining this facility. So that's another way to look at, what benefit we're getting out of the concession contract.
I'll stop the screen share, and also just one other point to consider. In 2019, when we implemented the change in reduction in percentage, at the same time we also implemented an increase in ticket price to also kind of help offset, bring things more in balance. So
great. Noah.
So I thought I'd just add one more comment on the figures. Specifically in 2015, we brought in Pam Hesse and Lisa Lietman under Pam Hesse's company, but Pam and Lisa worked on the painting of the figures back in the 70s. So they're very familiar with the carousel. We asked them to come in and do some preservation, some conservation, restoration work on those figures. So that's why one of the reasons they look so nice as they do right now, is because we had sort of the original folks from the 70s come in and do that work, but they also provided training and guidance to the Kwasniks and their staff. So they're able to do that maintenance work without having to bring in, sort of the experts every time. And so that's sort of a way to cut those costs and preserve the CMF as well. And also I'll just note that I've been really impressed with the Kwasniks' resourcefulness in solving the very unusual problems that come with 100-plus-year-old.
Looks great. Does the concessionaire want to contribute to the conversation? No?
Yes, thank you. I wasn't sure how to unmute, but I appreciate everybody giving us the chance to get caught up, and we really enjoy doing this, and we really appreciate everything.
Good. Well, it looks like you're taking care of everything, so we appreciate that as well.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Director Wieskamp.
I want to say it was very nice to see Noah, because he's been involved from the start and did a great job on looking up statistics, finding out about all those merry-go-rounds and what was the right thing to do. And I think we're so lucky to have employees who do such a meticulous job and are still around to tell us about it. So thanks, Noah.
So noted. Okay, I think this is a recommendation. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Director Waspy,
Aye.
Director Rosario,
Aye.
Director Wieskamp.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Yay.
Congratulations. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay. Looks like the last item, online digital learning program.
Okay, I'm just gonna, before we pass it off to Ira, and Ann is here, and I wasn't expecting Ann here. That's good. Just this item here is part of our new reality. Is how have we shifted under the pandemic in our business? And I think that I'm really proud of the work that the naturalists have done to do this shift. And of course, Ira and Dave Zuckerman have been leading this effort. And I think you're really going to enjoy this. It's really unique. It really highlights the creative talents of our staff. And with that, I'm passing off to Ira.
Thank you, AGM O'Connor. This is Ira Bletz, Regional Interpretive and Recreation Services Manager for the Southeast region. And thank you, Chair Rosario and board members, for giving us the opportunity to tell you about the exciting work that our interpretive staff are doing. Kevin Damster is going to be joining us, the supervising naturalist at Black Diamond Mines. And if he could start the PowerPoint, Kevin. Great. So as AGM O'Connor mentioned, just before the shelter-in-place order went into effect in March, we had a almost complete drop in school programs. All the schools were closing down. They were canceling all of their programs, and we realized this was going to be a new reality for some time to come. Next slide. Next slide, Kevin. Thank you. So we had already taken some small steps into the world of digital learning and virtual reality. As you know, back in 2019, we launched 3 virtual reality programs. They were developed under Kevin Damster's leadership and with the interpretive staff at Sonol, and they were basically virtual reality tours of 3 of our parks. One was at Sunol, focusing on Alameda Creek and the watershed. The second was at Las Trampas, focusing on the very interesting geology there. And the third was Pleasanton Ridge, which focused on conservation and sustainability. Late in 2019, we also developed a virtual tour of Concord Hills for the conveyance and commemoration event. And it's something that, since Concord Hills obviously is a land bank and closed, people could take a tour through virtual reality. They can do it at our mobile visitor center, or they can do it online. And so we had plans to go into this year with 2 new exciting virtual reality projects. One was going to be a view from the peaker on top of Mission Peak, looking at the East Bay and the Bay area and how it looked in the past, how it looks today, and how it may look in the future, thinking about sea level rise. We also, working with the staff at Coyote Hills and the Ohlone community, we're developing a virtual tour of the Shell Mound at Coyote Hills, and it will include first-person accounts by Ohlone community members. So we were all set to take on those challenges this year when COVID-19 arrived. And at this point, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Supervising Naturalist Kevin Damstra. Kevin has really spearheaded and coordinated the efforts of all of our interpretive staff in very quickly pivoting and launching digital learning opportunities for the public, for schools, for families stuck at home. And all of our staff, as I mentioned, are involved. We have people that are on camera. You may have seen them on the Facebook page or on the district's digital learning webpage that was created. But we also have staff that are working on developing scripts, people doing research, people finding photographs. We also have people doing closed captioning, which is an important piece of each of these presentations. So I'd like to turn it over to Kevin now, and he'll give you that update on what we've been doing since March.
Good afternoon, members of the board. This is Kevin Damstra again, Supervising Naturalist out of Black Diamond Mines. When the shelter in place started to appear like it was going to occur, we started to see more and more schools contacting us saying that they had canceled their field trips, that they had begun to shut down and even switch over to digital learning. At that point in time, even before shelter in place began, our naturalists realized that we had to adjust what we were going to be doing for the spring. Very quickly, we reassessed what our naturalists knew how to do and what we could do, and we started to create different plans. Our visitor centers, Sunol Visitor Center and Crab Cove, were 2 of the first visitor centers to jump into this and sent out their naturalist teams to start recording videos, not knowing exactly how they'd be used, but knowing that we needed them. At the same time, our mobile education team, led by James Wilson, started to review the adventure cruise that we have in Richmond and in Oakland. And they began to create ways of working with those families through separate apps to communicate and have online digital games and experiences that the families could do with naturalists remotely. In the next few days, as we began to ramp up, we had the shelter in place come in, and suddenly our naturalists found ourselves at home. Most people were not able to go into the office as we figured out what our district policies and procedures would be. During that time, staff continued to create content. People were using their smartphones, their cell phones. We very quickly learned who understood how to do video editing. People even created their own green screens in their living room to try to facilitate these programs that we began to do. Over the course of shelter in place, we launched our first video that went onto Facebook, which was a creature feature. That was launched within 2 weeks of the shelter in place order being put in effect. It was followed by another series known as Songs and Stories, as well as regular recurring programs like our Shine partnership continued in a virtual way. With all of those programs during the first phase of shelter in place, we had 45 videos that were posted on our Facebook page. 31 of those have been put onto our district's website and onto our YouTube channel as well. After that first phase began, we started to expand as we got more and more comfortable working in a digital realm. We now have 3 Facebook series that are ongoing. Our popular creature feature series that was going Monday through Friday every day while everyone was home is now happening every Wednesday. In addition to that, we have a series that's for our youngest learners, which focuses on learners between the ages of 2 and 5, and a series that's known as for our lifelong learners, which gets a little more in-depth into the natural world geared towards adults. We have piloted things like a virtual campfire program. This is something that I find really pretty amazing. Morgan Gunther did this, posted up on YouTube. It was very successful. And one of the ways that I think is most telling that it is successful is that I've started to see more organizations and agencies begin to do this. We were one of the first ones that I've seen within our professional peers. For the 4th of July, Ardenwood posted a virtual 4th of July event. They had about a 30-minute long video. They were able to focus a lot on some of the different activities that people would have done had they been at the park in person, and encourage people to do some of those activities at home. They were even able to partner with the magician and the blacksmith at Ardenwood to have segments of that video highlighting the work that they do. During this time when we're starting to get more and more creative, we also began to experiment with live programming on these social media platforms. Facebook is where most of our public contact happens as far as social media is concerned. Facebook Live, our individual visitor centers, we've started to actually do impromptu live programming. The first one that I was involved with was from underground in the Hazel Atlas mine here at Black Diamond Mines. We have Wi-Fi currently just at the entrance to the mine, but we were able to get to a coal seam and still had enough connectivity to be able to go live underground and share a little bit from the coal seam. In these first days when our school shut down, we began to figure out how we were going to serve the schools and teachers in particular. 2 of the groups that dove into this head first were the mobile education team based in Alameda and the Sunol staff. The Sunol staff led 29 virtual field trips in in the first few months of the shelter in place, and really began to figure out what worked and what didn't work and how to interact with teachers through this virtual environment. The adventure crew and Richmond Rangers also began to continue more and more conversations and games. They began using communication tools like an application known as WhatsApp that allows families to connect with the naturalist and to go out into the parks and do different activities. Sorry, I have to introduce this. Those videos that we have a number of them now. We have about 109 videos that have been posted on social media as of yesterday. Those 109 videos served, have been viewed 166,000, almost 167,000 times. They have had almost 12,000 interactions as far as people liking, commenting, or sharing those across social media. It's been a tremendous way for us to connect to the public and to show the district, show off different parts of the district. What we put together here is a short clip of some of our highlights from those early days of social media. Excuse me.
Hello everyone, welcome to today's creature feature.
Hi there,
My name is Morgan Gunther, and I'm a naturalist with the East Bay Regional Park District.
Hello, my name is Michael. I'm a naturalist with the East Bay Regional Park District, based at the Crab Cove Visitor Center in Alameda.
Oh, hi. I'm a naturalist with the East Bay Regional Park District. And today I'm here to talk turkey. Wild turkeys, that is.
Look at this pile of sticks. This is the home of the wood rat, one of the most interesting creatures you can find here in the forest.
We're going to get a closer look at these creatures, which are actually the protectors of the redwood forest.
Like any animal, tarantulas will defend themselves if they feel threatened.
At first glance, it may look like a slimy mud hole, but it is full of life. Let's take a closer look. It's a newt.
This newt has amazing superpowers. That's right, superpowers.
So, if I'm a vole, and I'm standing right over here by the bushes, and I know as I'm liking it, I feel safe here, but I can't stay here my whole life, I'm gonna go run over there. So I'm gonna run over this way, but if I get over here and I don't feel safe, I'm gonna wanna get back over there. How am I gonna do that? I'm gonna pee pretty much my entire life.
Well, life's not just fun and games for the wood rat. They have to watch out for predators like bobcats, coyotes, foxes, and many others.
At first, domestic turkeys were released. But they didn't really do too well. Our hot, dry summers weren't very hospitable, and they didn't really know how to find their own food. That's when the commission thought up a new plan. Wild turkeys were trapped in Texas and Nevada and released throughout California. This time, they did well. A little too well.
What is just nothing to us is opened up to them as a bright fluorescent line or a map. So if they're flying overhead and they happen to catch a glimpse of this fluorescent road map of vole pee, they know they're in a good place to try to find a meal. Who knew? These odd interactions between predator and prey, they're going on all the time, all around us, in the parks, in the cities, in the suburbs, right around your home. So as soon as you leave that front door, open up your eyes and ears. Look and listen for the stories that nature is telling us.
Thanks for joining today, and thanks for supporting the East Bay Regional Park District. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to release our pond animals back to the wild and wash my hands. Ooh.
During all of these programs that we started to do, it became very apparent to us that this was a new tool in our toolbox. These were different ways of connecting to the public and connecting to the audience, and we wanted to make sure that we were reflecting that and tracking it. So we began to create new ways to make sure that these programs met the needs of our audience, and also ways for us to track how successful we were. On one end, we began sending out surveys to the virtual schools, the schools that we were serving through our virtual field trips. Of those 29 schools that we worked with, we received back about 15 surveys. Almost on every single one of those surveys, teachers were very appreciative of the work that we had done. They also had tremendous feedback for us as far as little tips and tricks to make it a little bit better. As we all know from working with Zoom, there are glitches that come up every once in a while. So we've been working through trying to figure out the best way to be able to share and interact with people in this new virtual realm. In addition to that, we've started to count the number of people that we're serving and track those separately from our in-person programming. Right now, we are not offering in-person programming, but we know that we will again. And when we are back in the parks, the work that we are currently doing virtually is not going to go away. This is not a substitute. This is now in addition to. So we're trying to keep our statistics to track that and to keep it as accurate as possible. When we start thinking about the different types of field trips and, excuse me, the different types of programs that we offer in the realm of digital learning, we identified 4 major areas that we started to have types of programs that we could and should be offering. The virtual field trips that I've talked a little bit about are a live program with a naturalist working with a classroom through something like Zoom. We have Zoom right now as our standard. However, we use whatever the schools will use. This could be Skype in the classroom. It could be Microsoft Teams. It could be something entirely different. So each school has different requirements, and we're matching those requirements. As far as the live virtual programming goes, we also have the live virtual public programming. These are things like our Facebook Live posts that we've done. Internally, we've decided that that could be a naturalist standing up and actually being in front of you on the screen. It could also be something like that campfire program that I mentioned earlier that Morgan did, where it was a pre-recorded campfire program, but she was live in the chat box answering questions and interacting with people that way. In addition to that, we have the pre-recorded videos. These would be things like the creature features that we just had a chance to observe. And we are in the process of developing pre-recorded teacher resources as well, what we are referring to as educational bundles that will be that are being designed to be standalone activities that teachers can build into their curriculum, or to be things that could couple with our live virtual field trips and add a more in-depth experience. The 5th category that I've identified is what I'm referring to as app-facilitated programming. And we have a few different apps that we're currently working with. The Adventure Crew has used one known as WhatsApp. This is a communication app. The ones that are more programmatic that we're offering, one is East Bay Regional Park District has a virtual tour that is currently available on the Apple Store on iPhones. We're working on getting it onto Google. That is one that we're in the process of developing and updating, though there is a beta version of it right now that people can see. We have started to use an app known as Adventure Lab, which is a GPS-driven geocache-style scavenger hunt. Instead of having physical items in the park like most geocaches, it actually directs you to a fence, to an area that's known as geofence. You have to stand within a 10-foot by 10-foot square to have something activate on your phone, and then be able to answer the questions and receive the interpretive content that the naturalists have put together. Our first of those apps launched 2 days ago, has had no advertising, and has already had 5 people find it with 3 very positive reviews on the app. The third is a Kahoot style trivia game. Kahoot is a web-based program, and I have a very quick demonstration that I'd like to show you. In this picture here, you can see Virginia, one of our naturalists here at Black Diamond Mines, who is piloting some of the live versions of this. And we're working out some of the bugs, but the first live version should be going out very soon. The other style is a pre-created version of this that doesn't have a naturalist interacting with the public at the same time, but we have launched versions of these Kahoot quizzes. An ethnobotany quiz went out at the end of last week as part of a social media movement known as Black Botanist Week. If you'll give me just one moment, I'm going to switch my screen. Now this, I just want to make sure, has the Kahoot come up for people to see?
Yeah, we see it, Kev.
All right, thank you. As I switched back and forth, I just wanted to make sure. So the style of these allows It allows you to actually select different types of questions and create interpretive content. After these questions, we could add in more information if we wanted to, and in most of our quizzes we do. So far in our quizzes have been averaging about 30 participants. We have run 3 of those quizzes so far through social media. One was a bald eagle quiz down at Del Val. Another has to do with plants. And the last one was specifically the ethnobotany quiz that I mentioned earlier. Wasn't quite fast enough to beat my test earlier. So we're trying to utilize as many different avenues to connect with the public as possible in order to help us meet people where they are using the different activities that they are used to using. Looking towards the future, as I mentioned, this is something that we know will continue. You know, we're working with both Alameda and Contra Costa County Board of Education, the Office of Education, and we're hearing from a lot of the schools that we work with. Many of them are already planning on doing digital learning in the fall. Others are hoping and planning to do something else, but they always have that contingency that they'll be falling back, and digital learning will be a component of what they are doing, no matter what option they're taking. We are continuing to create the pre-recorded content. This style of program allows us to really get in depth into a topic, and it allows us to create our dream version. We have all led a program that you're standing on a trail and that bald eagle flies overhead and a weasel runs across the trail at the same moment. We dream about that. In the digital realm, we can actually create that. We can highlight things and actually zoom in on things that are difficult for people to see when they're with us on a trail. So it gives us a different way of connecting. Live virtual programming, we are piloting right now. We are looking at that launching more completely as the summer goes on. And we're already seeing that ramp up more and more with certain programs being advertised through our Facebook page, such as a photography workshop that happened a couple of weeks ago with the Coyote Hill staff. Our pre-recorded teacher resources, we have been working to develop a template that is almost completed and is getting rolled out to visitor centers as we speak, with our supervising naturalists working with their team to create at least 2 pre-recorded teacher resources per visitor center. Others will be added to after that, but our goal is to launch with those 2 per visitor center as early in the school year as we can in the fall. And the final one is the regularly scheduled virtual field trips. We piloted those in the fall. Our staff from Sonol are in the process right now of going through every visitor center and training all of our naturalists on the best techniques and tricks that they learned while doing those programs in preparation for all of our visitor centers launching a new suite of digital learning field trips. In the fall, we are in the process of writing and creating those right now. These will become part of our overall programmatic model. So we'll continue to have these virtual things that we've started, while also bringing back in the in-person public programming and the field trips that we know create a very deep connection and engagement with youth, with members of the public. So we are not viewing this as something that is taking the place of, but instead another tool in the toolbox that will allow us to create a stronger connection with our constituents and with our visitors. That I'd like to open it up to any questions that anyone may have about this.
Great. Any questions? Director Wieskamp.
My gosh, all have been quick. And isn't that terrific? You don't just sit out there in nature, but you find a way to bring it to people now. And I can't believe that all of the parents particularly aren't really pleased to have this opportunity. And as the schools go back into action this fall, I can't help but think that's going to be very useful in the classroom. So good job. And as actors, our staff seem to be doing very well.
Director Waspy. Oh. Can't hear you.
He's hiding.
Okay, here we go. Congratulations. I knew we couldn't just send you guys home and lock you up. You're too darn creative, and I knew that something like this would come, and it's amazing and great. I think it's a sad commentary that you guys in person are 100 times better, but what you've done here is amazing, and I applaud you and keep up the great work, and I hope it ends soon. And thank you.
Yeah, these are great. I'm looking forward to, if we ever have another employee recognition, we should have a best picture category, best actress and best actors. And I think that'll be great. And the statue goes to Ann Wieskamp.
Could I ask a question of the naturalists that are available? I've been noticing I have all kinds of plants, and normally I see all kinds of bees, and they seem to be missing. Is it the heat? What's going on? Anybody get any answers?
They're all in my backyard.
All?
too.
Quit hogging them all.
Yeah, I have no lack of bees in my yard as well.
They don't like the heat, I guess. Okay.
Could be.
It's the heat. All right. Thank you. Enjoy your bees.
Yeah, well done. Well done. This was just an information item, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Keep it up.
Yeah. I think the board members should all review all the movies, and then we cast our ballots at the end of the year.
We're going to vote?
Yeah. We should develop categories.
Hey, there could be awards. Wow.
Yeah.
Mike Moran will sweep all the awards. That's the problem. He's such a good actor.
I don't know about that. There's some pretty good ones out there. Okay. What did I do with my agenda? I moved. What's next?
Thank you, Kevin and Ira. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, Kevin.
Thank you very
Great
much.
job.
We're at the end. Are there any public comments?
Yes, Chair Rosario, we did receive 2 public comments submitted via email, which the committee members do have a copy of. The first one comes from Jeff Schick. He's a resident of Pleasanton and also a district park season pass holder. And he states, please explain in detail the issue with EBRPD regarding why Del Valle and Shadow Cliffs cannot open unless swimming is allowed. Other lakes in the state have implemented no water contact rules and either safety measures to allow for their lakes to open. Is there an issue with the workers union that is keeping the lake closed to the public? Please share the long-term plan to get these 2 lakes open back up for public use, not walk-in access, but parking, boat launching, etc. Respectfully, Jeff Schick. And the second one comes from Mr. Andrew Loho, and he writes, it is entitled EBRPD turns on dogs and their owners using COVID as the excuse. Please rescind the on-leash everywhere rule. Dear Manager Doyle and EBRPD directors, I'm very frustrated at having now endured 4 months of an unnecessary rule EBRPD imposed on dog owners as a result of its COVID-19 response. For the first time in my life, over 45 years of using these parks to let my dogs run, I was disturbed by the sound of a dirt bike approaching at the far end of Point Pinole on the evening of July 4th. That noise was so upsetting. The thought of a dirt bike making all that noise in this pristine place and driving through all that extremely dry grass, you would think that this park cop had a good reason to be there. No. He just told us we had to put our dogs on leash, and when we got when we got back on the trail. That was a huge upset to me, and it's totally unnecessary. On leash everywhere, he questions why. Why use just such sweeping, unnecessary, and ill thought out language like that, unless EBRPD is in the process of reversing its legacy of being truly dog friendly? There is no reason to make people leash their dogs in the far reaches of their favorite parks. Parks need to be shared by everyone. Dogs trained to voice and whistle command do not harm or disturb people they pass by on a bike ride. Very few people are encountered in the far reaches of parks, especially early in the morning or late afternoon/evening. You have to allow some opportunity for off-leash dogs running in remote or specific areas of parks. This draconian overreach is keeping me and many other dog owners from using EBRD altogether. I can walk, quote unquote, my dogs on leash around the neighborhood anytime I want, but that's not what they or I need to stay healthy. I go to the park so I can let them run, and I run or hike or ride my bike with them. I can't do any of that if I have to keep two young, large, strong, driven running dogs yanking on my arms the whole time. Many dogs need to run to get exercise, not just to walk on a leash. Trained dogs under voice or whistle command who ignore people and other dogs in their urge to exercise deserve the right to run off leash in remote areas. Almost all dogs need to be exercised off leash to stay healthy by fetching a ball thrown in a field or in the water by their owners a few dozen times every other day, and that activity causes no harm to anyone. There is no medical, epidemiological, or practical reason why leashing dogs does anything for or against COVID exposure. And that was the end of his comment. He did submit a link to a YouTube for a recommended video to watch by Professor Kimberly Prather, PhD, which you all have in your email. And that will also be included in the document packet. And that concludes the public comments for this meeting.
There was nobody waiting in line? No live ones?
No, we have nobody waiting.
Okay. Do we have any response to any of the public comments? Or would you just?
Well, we are discussing the issue of dogs off leash and reoperation of Del Val and Shadow Cliffs. That's, in fact, we were discussing it just this morning, executive team. So those discussions are ongoing and occurring right now, Director Rosario.
Okay, great. And then any other board comments?
None for me. Great job, everybody, and
great, terrific.
Stay healthy.
Okay, yes. AGM comments?
None for me, Director Rosario. Thank you.
Okay, great. And yeah, I thank you for the presentation. Wonderful. It just shows how creative we are, and I'm sure we'll get responses to the two public comments somehow in writing, I hope. And then, because I know we are, especially we are trying to follow our directions of our health departments in both counties, and we are trying to follow those as close as possible. And so that's where we are at. And yes.
Director Rosario, I appreciate you saying that. Also, you know, we are closely monitoring the COVID-19 data in terms of the infections. And so we're watching that closely and making decisions based on where that's going, in addition to the public health orders, changes in public health orders. You know, the other thing I want to remind the committee members, we do not have a board operations committee meeting in August. So we'll be reconvening in September again with all of you.
Great. We get a month off. Don't go anywhere. All right. Thank you so much. Thanks for the great presentations. Thank you to staff. Denise, thank you for putting this on, putting it all together.
You're welcome.
Yay.
Yeah. Can I ask a question? Who's the host? Denise, can you stay on for 1 minute after this is over?
I sure can.
Great, thanks.
Okay. Well, with that, we are adjourned. Thank you so much, everyone.